A few weeks ago, I asked you what you wanted me to cover after the reviewed and ranked series, and based off of that poll, the number one most requested item was the top 10 characters in Ultimate Alliance 3. So that is what we are going to go over today, and I hope that you are ready to discuss what makes these characters so important. But before we get into the list of 10 characters, I did want to knock out a couple of honorable mentions. So we're going to do that right off the start here. And there are 4 honorable mentions that I wanted to get into. Now the first one is Nightcrawler. Now Nightcrawler, all things considered, isn't super impressive. His abilities are fairly middle of the road, but when it comes to traversing the map in between combat segments, there is nobody better. He just moves so much faster and gets you where you need to go and is absolutely pivotal from a speedrunning point of view. I wish he worked better than he did on the combat side of things, but he is by far and away the fastest character in the entire roster. Our second honorable mention is Dr. Doom, and Dr. Doom is very powerful when you use him in the right circumstances. Apart from that, he does lack a couple of very crucial elements to his character. Mainly, I wish that his standard attack sequence hit a little bit harder and wasn't as long and drawn out as it is. But being able to summon in a 5th fighter to your team, even if they only last for a period of about 20 seconds, and then chaining any of your other abilities onto that, really makes a big difference when it comes to character viability. And that's why Dr. Doom is on this honorable mention list. Our third honorable mention is Captain America. Captain America is a very powerful character. The biggest thing that draws him back is his absolute defense ability, not having a lot of offensive capabilities. That's kind of the design of it, but that just knocks him down a peg in my mind. And then having an ability that he cannot synergize with the rest of the team, even though it's very capable of being able to do so. I think it was just poorly designed or omitted out intentionally without any real justification for it. But being able to bolster your own team's attack strength is an incredibly powerful tool to have, especially when his lasts as long as it does. And the fourth and final honorable mention is Daredevil. Now, Daredevil has a couple of similar benefits that Captain America does, the difference being all of his abilities can be synergized. They're all offensive tailored abilities with the exception of the radar sense, which lowers your opponent's defenses if they are in the area of effect. So there is the bit of the trade-off that you have to be in the area of your opponents to set that up, as opposed to just activating it on your team regardless of wherever they are. But being able to make your opponents more vulnerable and more susceptible to the attacks that you're throwing in at them really makes a big difference. Now that the honorable mentions are out of the way, let's talk about your top 10.
Number 10.
The number 10 spot goes to Morbius, and Morbius is a very powerful character who has the ability to render opponents motionless as well as lower their defense and then soup up his own attack power based off of dashing into the grunt type characters, which are plentiful throughout the course of the game. That really makes a big difference, and because he is self-sustaining as well as being able to aid the majority of his team regardless of wherever he is, that really helps him and pushes him into the top 10 list of characters.
Number 9.
Our number 9 character is Iceman. Iceman has a couple of quirks that kind of pull him back from being in the top tier of characters, but being able to boost your own team's defenses is a very powerful option, especially if you're headed into some of the more difficult rifts or other endgame type content that you're needing to get that 3-star clear on. That can really help by setting up that ice armor on your entire team. He's also able to hit very large areas of effect with the different attacks that he has both up close and at range, and being able to freeze your opponents is always a nice thing to have as well.
Number 8.
Thor takes our number 8 spot, and he is at the top of our A tier in our tiers of characters, mainly because he has a lot of electrical components in his kit, and so he is very efficient at rendering opponents into a vulnerable stagger type animation if he's not able to take them down with the heavy hits that he has. He also has a decent amount of range with his lightning strikes, as well as being able to extend his range by throwing Mjolnir out in front of him. Very powerful character, just doesn't quite have what it takes to crack into the top tiers of the characters. Speaking of which,
Number 7.
Number 7 goes to Gambit, and I really like Gambit for a lot of different reasons. The biggest reason I have him this high on the list is he's able to occupy large amounts of space with his dangerous ground. He can set up 2 of those pools, which slow the opponents and deal constant damage to them while the fields are active. And then he can layer in with other abilities and other attacks of his to really ramp up the damage he's capable of dealing. All in all, solid DPS character.
Number 6.
Number 6 goes to Phoenix. Phoenix is a very powerful character as well. She has the ability to set up a field that's about the same size as Gambit's. She can only set up 1, but it will replenish the energy points of your entire team and will allow your team to attack a lot more consistently and continuously pour out your ability and synergy attacks, which is the most pivotal thing to do when you're needing to mow down opponents and do so with your heaviest hitting options. Additionally, if you have teammates that are incapacitated and you use her extreme ability, she will revive them, provided that you have the revives available to use upon the animation concluding.
Number 5.
Number 5 goes to Wolverine, and Wolverine is incredibly powerful. Apart from the fact that he has a passive healing factor that will allow him to regain health slowly during the fights and even during the little stints where you haven't quite made it to a checkpoint to replenish your health entirely. That's just a really good mechanic to have. He also has an ability that will bolster his own attack power for a short period of time, and I love the fact that you can use his Adamantium Assault to get a nice uppercut and then fall back down onto your opponent with a falling aerial. That helps to extend your DPS, and it also allows you to get a head start on replenishing your energy points to rattle off the same type of attack over and over again, especially when you're in close quarters combat with those mini bosses. Excellent character.
Number 4.
Psylocke takes our number 4 spot, and she has very similar attributes to Wolverine, but the 2 slight edges that she has over him, I would say, are the fact that her abilities deal a lot more damage and take up more space, and it's not by a huge margin, but she does have the benefit of having 4 very high impact damage worthy abilities that she can layer out. And her extreme attack is incredibly powerful, takes up a lot more space, and it gets over a lot quicker, so you don't have to worry about your staggers on your opponents expiring before the attack has come to its conclusion and you've had a chance to get the maximum amount of damage out there.
Number 3.
Wulk has actually fallen a spot in the tier list from when we last saw it, and we'll talk about that in just a brief moment, but he's still a phenomenal character. Every single one of his abilities hits incredibly hard, and though he is a little bit slower, he is also very powerful on the standard attacks that he has. And for being a melee-based character, he has a surprising amount of range with his abilities, and is able to just truck through a lot of the more difficult fights in this game. He's integral to the new game speedruns, and really just mows down your opponents in any scenario you throw him in.
Number 2.
Our number 2 character goes to Black Panther. Black Panther is on here for a couple of different reasons, and that is he has the longest combo string out of any characters in the game. His heavy attack is incredibly powerful for extending that combo, as well as closing the gap between himself and his opponents, and his Vibranium Slash is probably the best ability in the game. It melts through stagger gauges. It absolutely destroys health bars from your opponents. There's reasons that this character is such a late game acquisition when you're playing through the game normally, and it's because he can just really plow through any opponent that you throw in his way. And with the right ISO 8 setups, he is the pivotal member of the team for New Game Plus speedruns. And I'll be attempting to reclaim that New Game Plus speedrun title in the next 2 weeks. So if you want to watch that happen live, make sure you check the description and follow me on Twitch so you can be there the day that it happens.
Number 1.
And at the top of our list, we have Thanos Infinite. This should be no surprise to anyone. With the extreme power that this character outputs with all of his abilities, being able to draw all of your opponents into one localized area so you and the rest of your team can just layer in the damage on them, as well as being able to render opponents completely immobile with 2 separate abilities of his, and being able to fully stun your opponents with his extreme attack, freeze them in place, let everyone get their extreme attacks out, and just really clean house. It honestly isn't even close. Thanos Infinite absolutely takes the cake of best character in the game. You can make a case for Black Panther being that number 1 character with the ISO setups that you have. The problem is, with that specific setup, he is a very frail character and has his health depleted very quickly. So in their natural settings, it's Thanos Infinite, hands down. But what do you think of this list? Do you agree with my rankings of these characters? Do you disagree? Be sure to let me know what your thoughts are in the comments down below. If you enjoyed today's video, make sure that you drop a like, and don't forget to subscribe for the daily variety content. And throw that follow on Twitch if you want as well. Thanks so much for your time, and I hope that you have an absolutely fantastic rest of your day.